Now, I would like to consider myself a properly functional adult. And what that means for me is developing your own systems to solve problems. Now, a lot of these systems for me come in the form of mobile apps. So I've had about 4 different phones over the last decade, and I've tried to keep the same exact apps on each one of them because I pretty much built my work and my life around them. Now, whether they help me do my job as a content creator better or they help me balance out my life, here are the apps on my phone that I simply cannot live without. So let's start with Sleepytime. Now, this app is technically a website, but I had to get it in some form of offline version because, well, internet here is expensive. Now, what it does is basically tell you when to wake up based on what time you go to sleep or vice versa. It does this by counting backwards on your sleep cycle to anticipate when you're going to be in the lightest phase of sleep, so that when you do get up by an alarm, you don't feel like you've been run over by a train. And if you want to wake up at a specific time, just input that here, and it will calculate all the best times for you to go to bed. Now, this app was absolutely instrumental in fixing my sleep cycle after it was absolutely demolished by high school, and it was one of the first habits that I tried to readjust for myself. After a week or so of making attempts to go to bed on time, I finally settled into a good groove and began to get some regular sleep. Because guys, honestly, I sleep like a rock, and if you do too, then I would definitely recommend Sleepytime. Now, of course, because I do sleep like a rock, getting up naturally just didn't come easy for me. So I needed an alarm app. But not just any alarm app. The alarm app to end all alarm apps. This is Alarmy. Now, what Alarmy does that your average alarm doesn't is simple but really effective. Basically, it gives you conditions to turn your alarm off. That condition may be like a puzzle, a math equation, to take a picture of something, or to violently shake your phone a certain amount of times. And yes, it'll keep going until you meet the required condition. Or smash your phone, whichever comes first, honestly. The condition that I've got set up is to solve a bunch of memory puzzles. Now, I used to have the math equation one set up until I realized that I could just open my calculator on my phone and then solve it and then just go back to sleep, and really that wasn't productive at all. Now, by this app being absolutely ruthless in waking me up, I really can't trust any other alarm apps. I'm absolutely ruined. So thanks, Alarmy. Next up is Any.do, my task manager of choice. Just type in a task for today, tomorrow, upcoming, or someday, and swipe to check it off, which I love because at the end of the day, I can look back at my list and see how much I got done during the whole day. And that makes me feel valid and important, and I like that. You can make these tasks as simple or as complicated as you want by giving yourself reminders, deadlines, subtasks, and you can even give a task a date to complete by. And you can also move the task to a list that you can create for, say, work, personal, or separate projects. That really helps with organization, but again, it's really all up to you at how deep you want to take this, and that's why I really like Any.do. Next up is Adobe Lightroom. Now, I'm assuming a lot of you creatives out there know what Adobe Lightroom is and use it a lot, and man, for good reason. It is fantastic. I've used it for a very good bulk of my photography projects, and it's allowed me to process images, even raw images I've taken on my DSLR, and share them with my clients directly after a shoot is finished. And man, any app that makes my job more efficient is a must-have. You've got all your main adjustments like light, color, and cropping, with some more in-depth options like effects, details, optics, and geometry. And the paid subscription gets you even more features like spot healing, which has saved me several times, and cloud storage for all your photos, allowing you to edit them on multiple devices. I'm actually a lot more used to the mobile interface of Lightroom, so much so that every time I jump on to Lightroom on the desktop, it feels weird to me. But anyway, I wouldn't be able to function without either of these apps. And now the next app is, well, it's technically a bunch of apps. It's the Google Suite, which includes Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slide, and most importantly, Google Drive. And I use them because they make sharing documents just so much easier. When I type up a script, a table, or a presentation, instead of just sharing the actual file like I used to, I just share the link for this file, which allows my client or my team to take a look at it and even make edits and comments for me. It's just so handy. I specifically use Google Docs to create shared documents like my podcast script, which I share with my co-host to add stories so both of us can view scripts before the actual recording day. I use Sheets to quickly view my monthly budget so I can keep track of my finances wherever I am. And I use Google Drive to share finished videos with my clients, because honestly, I cannot afford having to go to them every time I make one adjustment to a video just to show them if they like it. That's inefficient. So Google Drive helps. Now, of course, the disadvantage of this is that this entire system is an always online thing. So if you are separated from your internet connection, which does happen, it does happen quite a lot here, you're kind of left dead in the water. Take that how you will. And now next up is also a group of apps, and man, these are probably the most used apps since I started my new job last year. And these are Slack, Notion, and Trello. These apps have just made working with teams so much easier. Slack has made communication within my team specifically so much more easier because it's basically gotten rid of internal emails, WhatsApp groups, so it's pretty much instant messaging for work. Except chats are separated into channels to a dedicated one topic. And that's where most of the communication takes place. Now you might ask, what's the difference between this and setting up WhatsApp groups, for example, for your work? Well, for me, it's sort of the environment, because you can create a WhatsApp group for anything, and you can even create a messenger group on Facebook for anything, but it's the environment in Slack that always has me thinking in the space of work. Because in Messenger, in WhatsApp, you can always be distracted by friends or family who are trying to contact you, but in Slack channels, dedicated Slack channels, the people on there can only get through to you for work. So you very rarely ever get sidetracked. And it's available on all devices, so it helps me whenever I want to stay away from my phone and any calls that I'm not supposed to be taking at the moment and kind of just focusing on work. Next up is Trello, and Trello is basically the main way me and my team delegate tasks. It's basically a glorified task Kanban board that we can make as complicated or as simple as we want, depending on the task. It works on a system of these cards that represent tasks. You can open them up, add things like checklists, sub-checklists, descriptions, due dates, labels, attachments, assign members to the task, and you can also view any and all updates on a single card made by your team. My favorite way to use this app is to create a board for each step of my personal video production process, because it gives me a really great visual of where each stage of the process all of my projects are, and I am a very visually thinking person. I think better with pictures. Sometimes I use it to track every aspect of a particular video project, and this is really good for two things. One, it helps me know exactly where I am in a really big project, and two, it lets everyone else in my team know exactly where I am with a specific project. And now possibly my favorite app in the last 2 years, Notion. Yes, I know Notion's literally blowing up all over YouTube and everywhere. I hope just everyone here starts using it because it's such a good app. I started using Notion last year and I didn't really get into it because, well, I'm not gonna lie, all of those templates and databasing things kind of just, yeah, they intimidated me. I was freaked out. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to start off with first. But once I started treating it like a very simple checklisting or to-do listing app, and then working up from there, I kind of built up my own way of using the system. And man, in that regard, it's extremely powerful. So my absolute favorite thing about Notion is that it basically allows you to turn any database, like let's say a list or a table, into any other form. Let's say you can turn a table into like a Kanban board or a timeline board, which is super helpful for really big video production projects, or even a gallery to make them look very nice and presentable. Now, I primarily use this as my single place to store all of my scripts, to track and organize paid projects, and to share pages I've created with my clients so they can see my progress. Once again, it's one of those apps that allow me to combine communication and task tracking. And I really do appreciate that because in the past, keeping clients updated on tasks was something that was super tedious for me. So yeah, Notion, check it out if you probably haven't heard of it yet. Now, next up is an app called Anker, which has seriously raised my podcast game. And for everyone that's wondering out there, yes, there are more episodes of Not Culture coming up. I just needed to jump through some hurdles to get some stuff done, but don't worry, there are more episodes coming. Just keep holding on. But yes, back to Anker, sorry. Anker is a podcast management app that helped me get my podcast into Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and all by handling the RSS feed so that I don't have to. Because for the life of me, I do not know what RSS feeds are, and I should probably find out. Yeah, put that on my to-do list. It also helped me manage the artwork, the uploads, the copies, the titles, and basically anything that I needed to get my podcast onto an international stage. Basically, if you've already recorded a podcast and you want to upload it, get this app. It's free and it will walk you through the entire publishing process. It's amazing, try it out. And now to close up this list, here are some honorable mentions. These, of course, are the apps that are not particularly special, but I still can't live without them. First, the Canon Connect App. I use this app to retrieve photos from my DSLR over Wi-Fi to edit and share them on my phone. Now I use this closely with Lightroom so I can edit and process these photos before I send them to clients, so obviously I can't live without this app. The DJI Go 4 app for droning, obviously. I mean, I haven't just downloaded 400 megabytes of an app to just sit there, right? The GoPro app to monitor my GoPro for time lapses, and books and podcasts because, man, when I want to kick back, books and podcasts. And there we have it, all of the apps on my phone. Now, of course, I left out the bigger apps like social media, music, and gaming because I really just wanted to highlight those apps that helped me get my life together. So what apps do you guys use? Do you have any replacements for apps that I could possibly try out? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.